Thank you for tuning in to the Welcome to My Tent podcast. I hope you had as much fun listening as I do recording. I am so happy to have you here, and see you next episode. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Welcome to My Tent podcast. I am excited to be back with a solo episode today. We're going to try to keep this one short and sweet. I'm trying to keep the solo episodes on the shorter side because I know we're all short on time, but I am going to be talking about the icks I have with the wellness industry. And y'all know that I can go on some hot tangents. So we're going to do my best to reel this one in and just simply talk. Now, before we start, please know that these are my thoughts and opinions. These are not necessarily fact, and you may have differing opinions than I do, and that is okay because we are all entitled to those. But this is just some of the things I feel about the wellness industry. I am almost 35, so I'm in that prime age of growing up with some really severe diet culture shit being bashed over our heads 24/7. And it really has shaped the way that I experienced health and wellness growing up and in my earlier earlier adulthood, I don't know, and how I show up for myself and how I coach now. I've had a journey and an experience with health and wellness of my own, which many of you maybe have heard in prior podcast episodes, or if you follow me on social. And I unfortunately have engaged in some very diet culture-y behaviors in my past. And you know what? I am happy to say that we are no longer in that mindset, but we were once there. So this is just my thoughts on a few things in this industry that make me kind of cringe and I don't love, and we're going to talk about them. So ick number one is that one size fits all. So there's a couple different things that go into this. And I think the biggest ick that I get about this is around modifications. And I don't even love the word modification. I prefer the word variation. I will never forget when I was at a very popular and trendy fitness studio back in Chicago, and I was on the treadmill for one of the portions, and the instructor said, well, if you can't do it like this, do that. And they were, referencing sprinting at a 12 incline. And that day I just wasn't feeling like it. So I was walking very briskly up this hill, minding my own business. And the teacher said, I see you walking. Okay, one size does not fit all here, buddy. And modifications and variations in the health and wellness space, in particular for fitness, are extremely important because one size or one way to do something is not the be all to end all. And sure, some people may be able to sprint at speed 10 on incline 12. Good for them if that's what they're feeling that day. But I didn't want to. Okay. And that person should not be compared to me. I should not be compared to someone else. And there's not one singular thing that is going to fit to people identically, whether that's a fitness routine, whether that is nutrition, whether that is the type of self-care or other wellness practices that they engage in. There's never going to be one set of rules that will apply to two different people. And I think that's what's so beautiful about this is we do have the ability to create that for ourselves and to create our own journey. But a lot of times we're told that that's not valid because this is the way that it should be done. And that's just not true, in my humble opinion. So one size does not fit all. Your size fits you. That's how I like to explain it. You fit you. Not that person fits you. You fit your individual needs and your journey. And if you ever are in a space where you kind of feel like, that person's making me feel like absolute crap for doing the thing that's best for me, run away. Run away fast. Okay. Ick number 2, living and dying by the stats on your wearable device. Now, this is a hot topic, and I will be honest with you. I wear trackers. I have tried many of them in the past. I've tried Apple Watch. I have an Oura ring on right now. I have tried Garmin. And I used to have a pretty toxic relationship with these tracking devices because I think they can, not always, but can encourage some unhealthy behaviors with our health and our fitness. So I get the intention, obviously, behind wearables. I have them and I use them, but sometimes they do more harm than good. And I have known people that will be pacing around their living room at 11:30 p.m. trying to get to their step count, or not really feeling like they had a very valid day in terms of health and wellness because of the metrics on something that is lighting up on their wrist or that they wear on their hand. I will say I do think that there is a lot of value in the data that a tracker can provide. But I also want to point out that trackers in general can have a 25% margin of error on either direction. So not only are they not 100% accurate, they can actually be decently off in terms of what information they're providing back to us. Most of these trackers are going to start from a baseline of a very generic set of things. And this goes back to the one size does not fit all conversation, where the baseline of what it is calculating you against is a very generic gender, height, weight, age calculation. And while this does a decent job of kind of understanding how a body can generally function, it is not going to take into account our individuality with our bodies. And so, not, feeling that stress or anxiety when we don't close our Apple Watch rings, or when your watch is telling you that you need to move more, stand up more. I feel like a lot of times these things are yelling at us to do more, that more is more, and to actually overexert when in reality we should be maybe prioritizing rest. Or people feel like their day is more valid if they can show off that their workout was X amount of calories on their Apple Watch. I don't love that aspect to the whole tracker and wearable situation. You won't typically, or I don't know if you've ever seen me sharing a screenshot or whatnot of my stats. But I think that it does a really good job of dictating things as bad versus good in relation, in particular, to our fitness. So, making these numbers the be all end all is not something I love and actually gives me the creeps. But I will say, in terms of data, I'm a data girly. You know that if you know me. I do think there is some valuable insights into this. But what I really like to encourage people to do, if you have a tracker, is look at how you can actually prioritize rest and recovery versus more exertion. So I actually really like the Oura Ring because it actually encourages you to look at how recovered you are, and then using that as the opportunity to look at that data and figure out maybe what is best suited for you that day. But the people who kind of brag and or make their trackable metrics just like their entire personality, I don't love. Anyway, that's ick number 2. Ick number 3, demonizing certain types of exercise. Okay. I will say I lived in the mentality in my brain and in my headspace for a long time that cardio is king, okay? And I cringe at myself. I find myself extremely chuggy, is that still a word? We don't know, about the fact that I used to think that. And I've really, done so much work on my mindset since then. But I think there are still people out there who demonize certain types of exercise. To take it one step further, I have seen people who actually go as far as to make fun of certain type of exercises. So they think that doing, Zumba is silly, or they think that going on walks doesn't count. And I think that does a number on a lot of people who really want to break free and create their own wellness journey. But we're getting a lot of loud messages that certain things are valuable and certain things are not. I will also say I've, encountered a lot of people on the internet over the years where I've seen this happen. And I'm thinking of one example in particular where someone basically discounted Pilates as something that was beneficial. They're big into weight training and lifting heavy. And I love that. I love lifting heavy, and some people really enjoy that as well. But the nature of this conversation that we're having is basically that Pilates is useless. Um, and that it's not a good, quote unquote, form of exercise for your overall health. And I get it. They were trying to sell something. They were trying to sell their programs and sell where they work. But at the same time, that is completely exiling an entire category of exercise that is very much so aligned to a lot of people. Here are my thoughts on this. If you have an extremely specific goal in mind in relation to your fitness, you want to enter a bodybuilding competition, or you want to run a marathon, things that have a very specific outcome you're trying to achieve, there is a certain path that you need to take in order to execute. If you want to run a marathon, yes, I am sorry to say that doing Pilates twice a week is not going to help you run that marathon safely or effectively. You have to put into place a distance running routine that will get you there. If you want to enter bodybuilding competitions, doing yoga is not going to get you there. But for the majority of people that live on this earth, we're not trying to get to these super intense, rigid goals. We're just trying to be people that want to show up and do things that make us happy and that fit and align with our bodies and our minds the best. And so to see some people that completely just disregard entire categories of exercise as ineffective or useless really makes me mad. And it makes me feel like they're doing a disservice to people who just want to be healthier and who just want to show up. And I've seen it time and time again. And it's an ick. It's an ick. It is a complete ick. And if you're a Pilates girly, you keep doing you. Keep showing up. Keep doing you. Because not only is it an effective form of exercise, you are moving your body. There are a billion benefits that you can get from Pilates: strength, your core, balance. Like I assure you, any type of exercise has its benefits, and it just is really going to depend on the goals that you have in mind and the outcome that you're looking to achieve, which most of the time is not going to be this crazy, intense end goal. It's just people just want to show up and get their workout on and feel a little bit better and create some more space for themselves. So if you are demonizing entire categories of exercise, please stop. Anyway, I feel like that one was kind of aggressive, and I'm sorry. Most people do it well, and I think you can also teach something that you love. I teach yoga. I love yoga, but I also understand that not everyone likes yoga, and that's okay. I'm just saying there are people out there who decide to completely disregard certain things as valuable. On that similar vein is demonizing entire categories of things. So I see this mostly happen with demonizing entire categories of food or nutrition or things that we ingest. So I want to be very clear on this topic when I speak about this, because I completely understand that there are people who are in recovery, right? I'm not talking about people that are in recovery for drugs or alcohol. I am talking about people that, occasionally like to have a beverage, right? So they're out for dinner, they want to have a glass of wine. I fall into this category. I have drastically reduced my amount of drinking over the years because honestly, my hangovers suck. But I don't ever completely demonize the entire category of it. I think a moderative or moderation approach is appropriate for me in this scenario. I completely understand there are people who do need to cut that out completely. But it goes the same for food. So, we've gone through the years of these trendy things to discard from our lives. If you're around my age, you may remember the era where people demonized bananas. All of a sudden, bananas were the devil, and then it was sugar, and then it was gluten. And there's these kind of methods and thought camps out there where people will say you must completely eliminate every micro ounce of this from your life. And again, of course, if you are a celiac, please don't eat gluten. please, please. You will get very sick. But for, again, like the general population, it is harmful and kind of annoying when we see these very loud messages saying you have to completely eliminate X, Y, and Z. You cannot eat sugar. You cannot have gluten. You cannot have dairy. You cannot have X or Y or Z. Am I keenly aware that there are things that are more nutritious or more nutrient dense than others? Yes. And please take note of how I am describing that, because the demonization of this also then starts to categorize things as good or bad. And I see a lot of my clients and I see a lot of people saying, oh, I ate so bad today. Oh, I actually ate really good today. And it's all of these messages that are getting thrown out, both in the media, both on social, and both just all over the place, where people are sometimes even subconsciously starting to label themselves as good or bad based on what they've ingested. And it's because of this demonization of entire food groups that people are starting to feel like this. For me, I'm a everything in moderation kind of girl. I would be very, very sad if on my son's birthday this past weekend, I refused myself to celebrate and eat a cupcake with him because I had completely demonized that sugar or gluten or whatever the case may be. I think that there's room to stay very mindful of our choices and also still live our lives and have a life. I think it's also very hard in society today to do that. Like, I think we have to do our best because we're all busy people. A lot of us have a lot going on. And I get really sad when clients come to me saying that they feel bad, like bad people, because of what they do. When in reality, it's like you ate, you had a cupcake and they're all of a sudden saying that they're a piece of shit. And it happens quickly and it spirals quickly. So I don't love that whole trying to force people to cut out full things they don't physically maybe need to cut out. There's no intolerance or, disease or allergy. And making it so people feel bad when they celebrate, life, or they go out for dinner and maybe eat something they don't normally eat. We're getting so far away from living in a moderative world. People really try to make things black and white. This is good. This is bad. I don't really believe in that. Of course, I'm also not promoting to, eat only frosting out of the can for 4 meals a day. No, I'm not promoting that. But I think that that's where that conversation goes, is if someone tries to push back on some of these thought processes of, well, I kind of, enjoy moderation. It's, oh, so you're encouraging people to be unhealthy. No, I'm just, encouraging people not to call themselves trash if they do decide to go out on an anniversary dinner. That's kind of all I'm saying there. So that's, the demonization of food. My last ick here. This one I might get in trouble for. Ooh. I'm going to do it. I'm going to say it. Okay. The 5th ick that I have about the wellness industry is the demonization of wanting to change your body. This one's a big one. This one is heated. And I've really taken some time over the past few years to think about this, because it is a very fine line to teeter. Again, I'm in that era and that generation of diet culture dictating that a woman's body, or anyone's body in general, actually, is more valuable if it looks a certain way, right? And I do not believe that that is helpful in our society and in our culture. I'm not saying that that is good. What I am saying is an interesting phenomenon that I have seen throughout my clients that have come and wanted to work with me. There's a set of them where they're almost ashamed to tell me they want to implement a plan that will physically change their body. Because I also know that self-love and body love is a really important conversation, and it is. And I think what I believe is that it's okay to know that you are valuable and loved however you are, but it's also okay to want to feel good. And the distinction that I dig into very deeply and stay very mindful on with my clients is, where is this desire coming from? And I'm very careful about the way that we integrate this and talk about this, because I want to be very understanding and clear over what is directing their desire to make some changes in their life. And this could be, dietary changes. It could be fitness, exercise, whatever, sleep hygiene, whatever the case may be. But in relation to people that would like to maybe gain more muscle or, lose fat or lose weight, it's a tricky conversation because of where we live right now. Okay, I want to be very clear as well. I do believe that people can be healthy at every size. I think our genetics, our bone structure, our anatomy, like so much goes into who we are as people. And there is someone that could be, one size and healthy and another size that's healthy. I think BMI is bullshit. That's another thing that gives me the ick. Let's add that into this category. BMI is bullshit. I do believe that because it was made for like some old white man. And now all of a sudden that's the sole metric that oftentimes a lot of people and medical providers look at as our dictation of health, which I don't believe in. So we can be healthy at every size. But what I really honestly wish more of us did was a more comprehensive analysis of our bodies. Because this ties into it. Stay with me. I feel like people are going to like either scream at me over this or agree. I don't know. So, I wish we had a more comprehensive panel done. Blood work, tests that measure the effectiveness of our hearts, blood work to make sure that our hormones and that our organs and our bodies are moving optimally. What are our cholesterol levels? What are our blood sugar levels? Like, we can't just take BMI and say like this person's healthy and this person's not, because that's just not an accurate indicator. So I am very, very clear with my clients that we need to understand the whole picture. And I'm often working in tandem with their medical providers to make sure that we have all of this information. And I have seen a gamut of people, all in different body types and shapes and sizes, that are equally as healthy. So that's not what I'm saying here. What I am saying is it's okay if you also want to make some changes. I think the biggest example for me is I had a client that came to me and her desire was to lose some weight in the process of working with me and implementing a fitness routine. And upon conversation, I found out that over the past couple of years, she had gained some excess and her back hurts, her knees hurt, she's out of breath, her blood work and her body and her hormones were all out of whack. She felt like shit. She didn't feel good. And to me, that is the line that I am not willing to cross. If someone comes to me and says, I want to change my body to like fit into society's standards, okay, fuck that. I want to implement some changes that may result in my body changing, because as it stands right now, I feel like shit. I'm on board, because we all deserve to feel our best. And I think we've gotten into a spot in a way where if someone does say something like that, they will get people that jump down their throats and say, well, you don't love your body. You don't love yourself. I don't think that's what self-love is. I think what self-love is knowing that we are valuable and loved however we show up in this world, and that we love ourselves enough to make changes that will let us run most optimally. So I don't love the whole demonization of people that maybe want to implement some changes that will result in their body composition changing. I think it's just a factor of really understanding where that desire comes from and looking at the whole picture of a person that goes way beyond BMI, that goes way beyond what they maybe even look like outwardly. Because again, what goes on the inside is not always visible to the naked eye. It is a lot more. I hope that people aren't going to freak out about that last one, and they might, and that's okay. I'm just a girl giving her opinions on things. All right, this was 25 minutes. Speaking of yoga and fitness, I am off to teach a class, and these were my icks, and I'm sure people are going to be icked out by me, and that's okay. I will live with that. Okay, I love you. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to the Welcome to My Tent podcast. I hope you had as much fun listening as I do recording. I am so happy to have you here, and see you next episode.